Hello guys and welcome to my channel, and in today's video I'm going to share with you the best towns to visit in Germany. In 2022 I spent 3 months traveling around Europe. I visited Poland, Lithuania, Germany, Austria, Slovenia, Slovakia, Hungary, Czech Republic, Italy and more, and I spent 1 month and a half just in Germany alone. At the same time, I was a budget traveler, so I'm going to share with you a few tips on how to make the trip as cheap as possible and also how to combine it with your work. I was a remote worker at that time. I had a remote position which allowed me to work from anywhere in the world, and I used this wonderful opportunity to explore Europe. And I worked 40 hours a week and I still managed to explore the cities and travel between countries. And I was a solo travel as well, so if you're interested in this, I can share with you a few tips on how to be safe and how to feel safe when you're traveling alone, especially when you're a girl. So stay tuned and let's get started then. My journey started in Regensburg. I went from Italy to Regensburg via Munich, and my bus was stopped on the bus station, and actually the police came in and started checking documents, people's passports for a valid visa to make sure there are no illegal immigrants. So just be aware that such things can happen. Even if there are no so-called borders in between countries, sometimes police can still check your documents, and this is not something to be afraid of if you have a valid visa or a residence permit, so it's not a problem at all. So as I was a budget traveler, I stayed in hostels most of the time. It was just hostels because it's cheap and comfortable. And for example, in Regensburg, I stayed for 5 nights and I paid just about 100 euro. It was 111 euro. And I stayed in a 4-bed room, which was a mixed room, by the way. So there were both guys and girls. And at first I was a bit scared of that because I wasn't sure if this is safe to stay in the room where some men also stay, but I can assure you it is safe. People just come to the room to sleep and then go travel, so no one is looking for something bad, so to say. And I stayed in a hostel which was very cheap for me, and at the same time it had a kitchen where I could cook everything by myself, so it was very cheap. I can go to the store, buy all the necessary pasta, chicken, and then just go to the kitchen that had all the necessary utensils to cook my food. Actually, I never went to the restaurant because restaurants could be quite expensive. As I'm a budget traveler, I cooked everything by myself. So how did I find this city? Basically, I just did a research on Google, like the best, most atmospheric towns in Germany, and Regensburg was one of them. And it's actually not as touristy as some other more famous, more popular cities such as Bamberg or Heidelberg or Rothenburg of the Tauber. That's why it was quite cheap, cheaper than all the other more touristy places. So I chose Regensburg and it was a good choice for me. I stayed in the hostel Ostentor. Hostel Ostentor, as I said, it was quite cheap at the same time. It had a kitchen with all the necessary utensils. It had a room where I could work, so it was not in the room where I was sleeping. It was right near the kitchen area. There was like a big table where people could socialize, talk, play some board games and so on and so forth. So it was super convenient because you could work at one place, eat at one place, and then go and have a sleep in your room. Personally, I find it very difficult to fall asleep when there is some noise in the room. So of course I found it a bit difficult at times to fall asleep at night, because even when people are trying to be very respectful of each other, still there are some situations where people arrive in the middle of the night after, for example, a night train, for example, or they need to leave early in the morning and they pack their suitcases, and this creates lots of noise. So of course it affects your sleep, so be aware of that, especially if you are if you find it hard to fall asleep when it's noisy, and just wear some earplugs, because this is going to save your sleep. So speaking about safety, I recommend you to store all your personal belongings in special lockers to make sure that nothing is stolen. And what I did is I put my keys, my credit cards and phones, passport right near me, so under the pillow, for example. As for the town itself, Regensburg is pretty small and pretty walkable, so you definitely don't need as much time there as I had. I had 5 nights and it was more than enough, but because I was working, I basically only was going for walks from 5 in the evening till like 10 in the evening. So if you don't work and just travel, I'm sure that one day will be enough for this town. It has a wonderful cathedral, dome of St. Peter, and also a Bavarian forest not far from it, so you can explore even more. I found this city quite touristy during the weekend, but during the weekdays it was less touristy than many other towns I've been to. I definitely think that it's a good choice to start a German trip with. The next town that I visited was Dresden. It has a very unique architecture, even though it was destroyed during the Second World War. Still, it has a very special vibe about the city, quite different from all the other places I've been to. And I really enjoyed walking around this city. It has many wonderful areas and districts, so I definitely recommend visiting it. The Dresden Picture Gallery was absolutely amazing, with some very famous works, including Raphael's Sistine Madonna, paintings by Vermeer, Titian and Rembrandt. I stayed in a hostel, Lolly's Homestay Dresden, for 5 nights. It was 1 bed and 6 female dormitory rooms, so when I could, I was always choosing the bed in female only bedroom, but they were not always available because they're very popular. So sometimes the only option that you have is to stay in a mixed dormitory room, which is also fine, by the way. You shouldn't be scared of that. It creates a little bit of inconvenience when you go out of the shower, for example. You should be fully dressed because there are men in the room, but apart from that, it's absolutely fine. I've never had any problems with that whatsoever. In fact, I think that in the rooms which are female only, it's quite noisy. It's more noisy than in the mixed rooms, because girls are very talkative and they talk to each other a lot, even during the night. And I've seen some girls who didn't respect each other and didn't respect other people, and basically they were just talking during the night, or when they came after a party during the night, they just didn't let other people sleep. The hostel itself was a bit old, in the way that the bathrooms and the toilets were a bit old and needed some repairs, but it had a special ambience to it, kind of a very special interior design of the hostel. I liked it a lot. It was situated in Neustadt, a very unique part of Dresden, full of cafes, street art, indie shops. Yeah, I really like Dresden with its river, opera house, swinger palace, and just I can recommend this city highly. Also, I was inside Frauenkirche, which was also bombed during the Second World War, but it was restored and restored very nicely. So again, the kitchen in the hostel was small, but even though it was small, I was cooking every single day there by myself. I was avoiding restaurants because I didn't have much money at all. I was traveling around Europe for 3 months, and I needed to make sure that the salary I got was enough to cover all my 3 months of traveling. The next city I visited is Leipzig. I actually stayed there for more nights than I initially thought I would be, because I was waiting for my friend to come join me. So I stayed around 10 nights there. It was quite cheap, around 20 euro per night, but the hostel was brand new. It was actually one of the best hostels I've stayed in. It had comfortable beds, showers, a very large work area, kitchen area. Honestly, it was brand new and very cheap for such a quality of accommodation. And Leipzig itself, it's just an ordinary city, so it's just a living city, nothing especially special about it, but it's not as touristy as others, and it has a big university, which I think gave it to that quieter and more local vibe. So if you want to explore something for a change, not just as touristy as all the other places, then Leipzig is a good choice. Then in Germany, I stayed in Mannheim for 5 nights. I like Mannheim for a practical base to visit the surrounding small towns, and I visited Heidelberg. Heidelberg is just an amazing place. It's a must visit when you're in Germany, and the prices in Heidelberg was much higher than in Mannheim. That's why I decided to stay in Mannheim, but to visit the surrounding towns. In 2022, Germany also had that wonderful opportunity to buy a 20 euro ticket and use it for the whole month, I think, for any kinds of train trip. So it was an absolutely amazing idea, and it saved me so much money. Again, as a budget traveler, I was looking for all the kind of cheap deals, and I found one, so I was visiting many surrounding towns with it. Heidelberg has a very nice castle which you need to visit and take lots of pictures of it. The view from the castle and from the Philosopher's Walk is magical. The old town has charming bars, cafes, and it's just perfect for a romantic evening stroll. Don't miss the Old Bridge, the University Library, and the Student Jail, a quirky historical spot. In Mannheim, I went to Nuremberg, and again, I used that city as a practical base to visit the surrounding cities. I visited Bamberg and Rothenburg of the Tauber from it, but the Nuremberg itself is a very nice city. It has a very nice old town which you need to visit. It has a medieval architecture, Nuremberg Castle, which offers panoramic views of the city from its walls. The old town around Hauptmarkt is picturesque with half-timbered houses and hidden courtyards. You also need to visit the documentation center, Nazi Party rally grounds. It's a very big and interesting museum worth visiting for a deep dive into history. And as I've said, from Nuremberg, I visited Bamberg and Rothenburg of the Tauber, and I think these are one of the most famous towns in Germany. Bamberg has nice streets with old houses and lots of flowers. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Town, and absolutely beautiful with its Altes Rathaus built in the middle of the river, the Bamberg Cathedral, and the area called Little Venice with colorful riverside houses. And it felt very touristy, especially on hot days. Crowds flocked to the riverfront areas, but it was worth it. The historic center is very compact but walkable and just steeped in medieval charm. From Nuremberg, I took a trip to Rothenburg ab der Tauber, and this town really felt like a fairy tale. The whole town is like a postcard. It's the most, I think after Venice, it's the most beautiful town for me. I've never seen anything just as beautiful as Rothenburg ab der Tauber. It's touristy, very touristy, but it lives up to this hype. I highly recommend visiting early in the morning or staying overnight so you can explore it without so many crowds, if it's possible. I'm not sure it is, because it's really the most touristy town in the whole of Germany. So guys, some final thoughts about Germany. It was amazing, and I think it can live up to any traveler. So some people prefer bigger cities, so they can choose Berlin. Others prefer some medieval charming smaller towns, and Germany has lots and lots of them. But I promised you a few tips on how to feel safe, on how to travel on budget, how to combine remote working with traveling, and I'm going to share them with you right now. So what I did is I chose hostels that had kitchens, so I could cook by myself and save lots of money, so that I could avoid all the restaurants, cafes, and just cook by myself all the time. It saved a lot of money, believe me. Also, I chose hostels that offered included breakfast. It saved a lot of money again, and also a lot of time, because you can wake up and just go straight to working instead of going outside, buying food, cooking food. You just have it all in the hostel, and then you can just work till like late afternoon when you're hungry again. And especially if the breakfast is big, you can feel so full after it that you don't eat food after till the evening. Also stay in not so touristy towns, because they will be cheaper. Of course, if you stay in Rothenburg ab der Tauber, it will be very expensive and also very touristy, so you'll be tired from all these crowds. It's better to stay somewhere that's not as touristy and to commute to this town than to pay twice as much and to live surrounded by constant crowds and noise. Use buses like a Flixbus, because they're quite cheap and comfortable. And also structure your day, so work from 9 till 5 and then explore the city in the evening. Also plan your commute on the weekend when you're not working. So when you go from one city to the other, it's better to do this on the weekend or in the evening after you finished your work. And just be aware that of course it's possible to combine remote work and traveling. I did this for 3 months, and you can do this as well. And you can do this being a solo traveler, being a girl solo traveler, and not be afraid of any bad people, because remember, there are always more good people in this world than bad ones. So stay tuned for my next video, where I'm going to share with you more information about my other trips around Europe and other hostels I stayed in Slovenia, Hungary, Austria, and other countries. So thank you for your attention, for your likes and comments, and see you in the next one. Bye!